My father raised his glass at Thanksgiving and called me a lie. A fork clinked, the table froze, and his phone lit up like a warning. New clothes family match, half sibling, right there beside the gravy. I didn't argue. I just watched his own screen betray him, and the silence that followed finally belonged to me. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening from in the comments. My name is Marin. I'm 27 years old, and this is what really happened. The first sound was a fork clinking against china, a bright, accidental ping that cut through gravy talk. Then my dad lifted his glass and said, "She's a lie." His phone buzzed on the table like an insect. The screen lit up, cold and white. I saw the words before he flipped it over. Butter and sage hung in the air, but turkey skin crackled in the kitchen like tiny fireworks. My fingers found the table edge and stayed there. I didn't stand up, I didn't plead. I just breathed and listened to that fork clink echo. Because I'd heard it my whole life. Little noises right before big punishments. A spoon tapping, a door latch, his belt buckle. This happened in my parents' house outside Columbus, Ohio. The same house with the oak dining set my dad refinished himself. He liked to tell that story like it was scripture. Real wood, he'd say, palm flat on the table. Built to last. Not like the stuff now. Built to last. That was his favorite phrase. It never applied to people like me. 3 hours earlier, I sat in my car and stared. My Starbucks cup sweated in the holder. The label said Marin, all caps like a warning. Oh, I watched my reflection in the rearview mirror. Mascara perfect, lips neutral, smile practiced, denim tight on my thighs from sitting too long. The furnace in the house would be blasting. It always was on Thanksgiving. My dad kept the thermostat like a weapon. I told myself I was here for my mom. And for my little cousins who still hugged my legs. And for the part of me that wanted normal one more time. I'd also told myself I had leverage now. Not revenge, leverage. My phone was in my purse, fully charged. Voice memo app ready. Because when you grow up being called dramatic, you start collecting sound. I learned that at the DM5. 2 years ago, my dad came with me to renew my license. He stood behind me in line, sighing loudly. "Dad. If you mess this up, don't look at me." I recorded him that day, not for court. All for my own sanity. So I started building a file. Screenshots, dates, notes, tiny anchors against his fog. 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, I went to the Franklin County Clerk's office. I took a number like everyone else. I sat under fluorescent lights that made everyone look tired. I asked for a certified copy of my birth certificate. Not because I planned to sue anyone, because I needed my own paper. The clerk slid a form toward me. She didn't care about my family story. She cared about boxes and fees. "Clerk. Fill this out. We'll call your name." My hands shook anyway. Not from fear of the clerk. From fear of what the paper might say. When they handed me the receipt, I folded it twice. Then I unfolded it and stared again. County Clerk. Case number 2024-17823. I memorized that number like a prayer. Because my dad loved documents when they favored him. I wanted one that favored me. Growing up, my dad told jokes about me like they were family tradition. He'd toss them out between turkey and pie. Everybody would laugh, because he was just teasing. "Dad. Marin's got my stubborn streak." "Dad. Marin could argue with a stop sign." "Dad. Marin's always making things bigger than they are." If I pushed back, he'd tilt his head like I was misbehaving. Then he'd lower his voice so everyone heard anyway. "Dad. See? Dramatic." My mom would smile too fast. Her eyes would dart to me like, "Please, not today." On my best days, I swallowed it. On my worst days, I cried in the bathroom and came back smiling. Either way, he won. I moved out at 19, a cheap apartment with a lease that smelled like toner ink. And I signed my name like it was a rescue rope. My dad stood in the empty living room and looked around. He tapped the wall with his knuckle like he was judging a melon. "Dad. This place is small. Me. It's mine." He didn't congratulate me. He told me what to worry about. "Dad. HOA rules will eat you alive if you're late." There was no HOA. It was a second-floor unit above a nail salon. He just liked warning me about invisible authorities. For years, that was my life. Him pointing at shadows, me flinching. And then, right before this Thanksgiving, my Aunt Jen texted me. She sent a photo of my dad holding a turkey baster like a microphone. Everyone in the background looked happy. Aunt Jen. He's been in a good mood. Come, it'll mean a lot. I stared at my phone. My thumb hovered over the word no. Then I thought of my mom stirring gravy alone. So I said yes. I stopped at Walmart on the way, like my mom asked. Paper towels, a bottle of sparkling cider for the kids, a pack of candles that smelled like harvest. I kept the receipt. Walmart receipts don't lie. They list everything, even the stuff you regret. When I pulled into the driveway, my stomach tightened. Same cracked basketball hoop, same faded flag out front, stiff in the cold. I carried the Walmart bag up the steps. My knuckles went white around the handles. I paused at the door and listened. Football commentary drifted from the living room. Someone's laugh floated over it, bright and easy. The furnace roared, overworked and angry. I rang the bell anyway. My mom opened the door with flour on her cheek. She smelled like sage and onions and tiredness. She hugged me like she was trying to stitch me back together. Mom, you made it. Me. Of course. Her eyes flicked past my shoulder, checking the driveway. Checking him. My mom always listened for his mood like weather. Inside, the house was a heat trap. Windows steamed at the corners, coats piled on the bench like people had fallen down. My Uncle Ray waved from the couch. My cousins wrestled on the rug. My dad sat in his recliner, remote in hand, king of the living room. He didn't stand. He didn't hug. He raised his eyebrows like I was late to a meeting. Dad. Thought you weren't coming. Me. Traffic. Dad. Always an excuse. I smiled anyway. I'd practiced that smile in bathroom mirrors since middle school. Soft mouth, no teeth, no challenge. I took my purse off and set it on the chair by the dining table, not on the floor, never on the floor. My phone stayed inside, screen down. I didn't start recording yet. Not until he started performing. The dining room looked like a magazine spread. My mom's good plates, cloth napkins, candles, a glass bowl of cranberry sauce catching light like a ruby. Every year, my dad insisted we eat at exactly 4. He liked schedules. He liked obedience disguised as tradition. Mom bustled between kitchen and table. She hummed like the sound could soften sharp edges. I followed her in and offered to help. Me. Want me to mash potatoes? Mom. Just set the rolls out. Her voice was careful. Rolls were safe. Me in the kitchen was sometimes not. I opened the oven and a wave of heat hit my face. Butter and yeast, sweet and dense. The smell should have felt like comfort. Instead, it felt like a trap dressed in cinnamon. I placed the rolls in a basket. The wicker scratched my palm. I liked the sting. Pain was simple. Pain didn't rewrite itself. From the dining room, I heard my dad's laugh. Too loud. Too clean. The kind of laugh he used when other people were watching. Dad. Marin's here. Everybody hide your wallets. A few people chuckled. Not because it was funny, because laughing was easier than correcting him. I walked out holding the roll basket. I set it down, steady. My fingertips brushed the table edge. I counted breaths. 1, 2, 3. My Aunt Jen came over and squeezed my shoulder. Her nails were painted a deep wine red. Aunt Jen. Ignore him, he's just, me. I know. I sat in my old chair, left side near the end. And it was always my spot, like assigned seating in detention. The denim on my thighs pulled tight as I sat. I smoothed it anyway. Habit. Across from me, my dad watched me like he was taking inventory. His eyes dropped to my hands, then my rings, then back to my face. Dad. Still renting? Me. Yes. Dad. Throwing money away? Me. It's stable. Dad. Stability is a myth for people who don't own. He said that like it was a proverb, like he didn't co-sign my student loans and then hold it over me. My mom came in with the turkey, glowing and browned. Steam rose off it like breath. The skin crackled when she shifted the pan. For a second, everyone actually looked grateful. Like we were just a family, not an audience. Then the fork clink happened. My cousin Leah dropped a fork while setting the table, ping against plate. That's a quick accident. My shoulders jumped before my brain could stop it. That sound. That tiny warning bell. My dad noticed. He always noticed. Dad. Jumpier than a cat. Leah. Sorry, Uncle Frank. Dad. Not you, it's fine. She's just sensitive. Sensitive. His word for weak, his word for inconvenient. I slid my hand under the table and pressed my thumb to the seam of my jeans, grounding, table edge under my fingertips again. I reminded myself of my county clerk receipt, case number 2024-17823. Paper doesn't care who's loud. I reminded myself of my voice memos, dates, timestamps, facts. I didn't come here to fight him. I came here to survive the moment he tried. Dinner started with my dad's prayer. He didn't pray like a humble man. He prayed like a man filing a report. Dad. Lord, thank you for this food. Oh, thank you for family. Dad. Keep us safe from bitterness and deception. Deception. He looked right at me when he said it, like he was sliding a knife under the tablecloth. My mom's hands trembled as she set down the gravy boat. The smell of sage rose up, sharp and earthy. Tradition with teeth. I watched her, and something in me hardened. Not anger, clarity. Because I wasn't a child anymore. I wasn't trapped in this house, counting footsteps. I was a woman with my own lease, my own bank account, my own receipts, and a folder in my phone named Frank. All caps, like my Starbucks cup. We passed plates, we pretended, we chewed and smiled. My dad kept the jokes coming, each one aimed, each one wrapped in sugar. Dad, remember when Marin tried out for cheerleading? Dad, fell right on her face. Yeah, whole gym saw it. I didn't remember falling. I remembered him laughing so hard he coughed. I remembered riding home in silence. I took a bite of turkey. It tasted good. And somehow that made it worse. My Aunt Jen tried to steer the talk to safer places. Christmas lights going up early this year. Ray's new truck. Leah's college apps. My dad let it happen for 10 minutes. Then he leaned back and looked around the table. He had that expression I knew too well. Like he'd found a fun new way to bruise someone. Like he was about to make me the centerpiece. He reached for his phone and set it on the table beside his plate. Screen up. A bright rectangle among candles and cranberry. His thumb tapped the screen once, like he was checking a score. Then he picked up his wine glass. Fork scraped. Someone poured more water. Then the football announcer shouted faintly from the next room. My dad stood halfway, just enough to claim attention. He smiled like he was offering warmth. Dad, before we eat, I've got something to say. My fingers tightened on the table edge. I stared at his phone without meaning to. The screen glowed, waiting. And I listened for the fork clink that always came next. And I listened for the fork clink that always came next. Dad. I'm serious, he said. Glass lifted like a judge's gavel. Dad. I've kept my mouth shut long enough. The smell of sage rose again as Mom set the gravy down. It hit the back of my throat, warm and bitter at the same time. Family tradition, cooked into something sharp. Dad's eyes swept the table, collecting faces. He liked an audience. He liked knowing everyone was looking where he pointed. Shab, Dad. Some people sit here and act like they belong. Dad. Like they're part of this family. My fork hovered over my plate. Metal trembled between my fingers. I set it down gently so it wouldn't clink. Mom's smile froze in place. Not a dramatic freeze. A careful one, like she was bracing glass in her hands. Mom. Frank. Dad. No, let me finish. He looked right at me. Not my hair, not my hands, not my clothes. Straight into my face, like he wanted to unmake it. Dad. Marin is a lie. There were mouths open mid-chew. There were hands paused with rolls halfway torn. Even the candles seemed to flicker slower. The furnace kept pushing hot air through the vents. A football announcer barked a stat from the living room. Someone's chair creaked as they shifted their weight. I felt the table edge under my fingertips. Solid oak. Up my dad's pride. I pressed down until the wood anchored me. Dad's voice stayed sharp, almost pleased. He'd practiced this. I could hear it in the rhythm. Dad. I'm tired of pretending. Dad. I'm tired of being the bad guy for saying it. Aunt Jen swallowed hard and glanced at Mom. Uncle Ray stared at his plate like it had an answer. Leah's eyes darted between my parents, fast and panicked. Me. What do you mean? My voice surprised me. It came out even. Not small, not shaky, not begging. Dad's mouth curled like he'd been waiting for that exact line. He wanted me to perform for him. He wanted me to crack. Dad. I mean, you're not mine. Dad. You never were. I'd heard versions of that sentence before. Not this clean, not this public. But always around food, always around family. When I was 9, he cornered Mom in the kitchen over a pan of gravy, sage and pepper thick in the air, the vent fan rattling overhead. He didn't know I was on the hallway carpet listening. Dad, tell me she's mine. Mom. Frank, lower your voice. Dad, answer me. That year, the gravy smoked because Mom forgot it on the burner. The smell sank into the curtains for weeks. Every time I walked past the stove, I felt like I was breathing secrets. At 13, I spilled cranberry sauce on his paperwork. A bright red stain spreading across a property deed he'd brought home to brag about. He didn't yell right away. He stared at the stain, then at me. His voice went flat, terrifyingly calm. Dad, you ruin everything you touch. Dad, just like where you came from. I scrubbed that deed in the sink until my fingers wrinkled, the paper tore. Yet he told the story at dinner for months like it was comedy. By 16, he didn't even hide it. He'd do the math out loud at the table like I was a bad bill he couldn't pay. Dad, funny how she doesn't look like me. Dad, funny how she's so different. Mom would change the subject. Aunt Jen would squeeze my shoulder. Everyone else would chew faster. So when he said, "You never were," it didn't shock my body. What shocked me was how calm I felt. Like my nervous system had finally learned his pattern. I kept thinking of my social security card, locked in my apartment drawer. My name printed clean, government stamped, real. A paper that didn't care what my father believed. And I kept thinking of my Walmart receipt in my purse. Little proof of little things, the only kind of proof I'd ever been allowed to have. The smell of gravy turned heavy, almost smoky, like something left too long on a burner, like a holiday that had started to scorch. Mom's hands clenched the serving spoon, knuckles pale, wrist tense. She didn't move. Mom. That's not... Dad. Don't. Don't lie for once. He said it like she'd been lying for sport, like I was some prank she'd played on him, like 27 years were a joke with a punchline. A laugh tried to happen at the far end of the table. It didn't land. It wasn't even funny nervousness. My cousin Leah's foot bumped mine under the table. A tiny tap. Not an accident. Leah. Uncle Frank, stop! My dad didn't even look at her. That was his trick. Ignore anyone who threatened his control. Dad. Stay out of grown folks' business. Leah's eyes flicked to mine, then down, her cheeks went red. She was 21 and still afraid of him. I didn't move my hands. I didn't touch my phone. I didn't touch my purse. I let him keep talking. Because the worst thing I could do in his mind was stay calm. Calm stole his script. Calm made him look cruel instead of concerned. Dad. You all know it. Dad. Look at her. Look at me. Dad. Does that look like my kid? He said it like DNA lived on cheekbones. Like blood was something you could eyeball across mashed potatoes. Like love was a math problem and I'd failed it. Mom's breath hitched. Her eyes shined, not with tears falling yet, with pressure. Aunt Jen leaned forward, voice low and urgent. Aunt Jen. Frank, you're doing this right now? On Thanksgiving? Dad. Exactly. On Thanksgiving. Dad. A day for honesty. Grandma Dottie sat 2 seats down from my mom. She was small, wrapped in a cardigan with tiny pills on the sleeves. Her hands smelled faintly of lavender lotion when she hugged me earlier. Now she stared at my dad like he'd slapped the table. Her fork hovered, then lowered. The metal made the softest tap against her plate. Grandma Dottie. Franklin, enough. He ignored her like she was background music. That was new. Even he usually respected her in public. Dad. Everybody's thinking it. Dad. I'm just the one brave enough to say it. Brave. That word made Aunt Jen flinch. My dad loved calling cruelty brave. The air felt hotter. The furnace kicked again with a dry whoosh. The smell of turkey fat and sage rolled over us in another wave. Mom's gravy boat sat between us like a centerpiece and a threat. I watched a thin skin form on top, glossy and brown. Yet it reminded me of how quickly warmth can turn stale. Leah leaned closer to me, voice barely there. Leah. Do you want me to say something? I didn't look at her. Softness was what he fed on. Me. Not yet. Because I could feel him reaching. He wanted me angry. He wanted me loud. He wanted the story to be, Marin caused a scene, but the story wasn't mine to perform. It was his to explain. Dad's phone sat on the table, screen still glowing faintly. A modern lighthouse in an old house. The phone's light bounced off the cranberry bowl. It turned the red darker. almost black, like a bruise under glass. I pressed my thumb harder into the table edge. The oak didn't give. Neither did I. Dad. Look at her, sitting there like a victim. Dad. Like I'm the villain. Uncle Ray cleared his throat. He was a big man with a soft heart. The kind who fixed your car without asking. His voice came out careful. Uncle Ray. Frank, you're being extreme. Dad snapped his head toward him. Dad. Extreme is living a lie. He glanced at Mom, and something cold passed between them. A look older than this dinner. A look that tasted like smoke. Mom's voice came out thin. Mom. Please don't do this. Dad. Why? Because it makes you uncomfortable? He smiled again, and it wasn't warmth. It was satisfaction. He thought he had control. And then he asked the question he thought would crush me. Dad. So tell them, Marin. Dad. Who's your real father? The smell of sage punched up again as Mom lifted the lid on the stuffing. Steam rushed out, fragrant and thick. I inhaled without meaning to. My stomach turned, but my mind stayed clear. I let the steam pass. Yeah, I let his words hang there, ugly and unanswered. Me. I'm not doing this like it's entertainment. That was all I gave him. One sentence, a closed door. His jaw tightened. He didn't like doors he couldn't open. Dad's phone vibrated, not a gentle buzz, a sharp one right on the tabletop. The screen lit up bright enough to paint his knuckles blue-white, cold light on warm food, truth arriving without permission. I saw it from my angle. Everyone could. A banner notification across the top of the screen. New clothes family match. The app icon was familiar, even if I'd never used it. Blue, clean, confident. A brand that sold answers in percentages. Dad's hand shot out fast. Too fast. He grabbed the phone like it had burned him. But the words had already landed in people's eyes, like a flashbulb, like a photograph you couldn't unsee. As Uncle Ray's brows rose, Aunt Jen's mouth fell open. Leah stared hard at the phone, then at my dad. Dad tried to laugh, a thin, forced sound. Dad. Spam. Dad. It's just spam. His voice cracked on the second word. His fingers squeezed the phone so tight his thumb went white. Me. What did it say? I asked it soft, not accusing, not pleading. A quiet question that forced the air to change. Dad's eyes snapped to me. For the first time all night, he looked afraid. He tried to tuck the phone under his napkin. His hands shook enough that the napkin slid off the edge. Leah leaned forward, brave for 1 second. Leah. That wasn't spam. Dad. Leah. Leah. I saw it. The fork clink finally happened. Not from me. From my dad's plate, when his utensil slipped and hit the china, ping. Yet then nothing but the furnace and the football, and everyone breathing carefully. And in that pause, I watched my father realize he'd just thrown a match into a room full of gasoline. And in that pause, I watched my father realize he'd just thrown a match into a room full of gasoline. He kept smiling like he could muscle the moment back into place. But the phone was still lit under his palm. That glow leaked through his fingers in cold stripes. Dad. Everybody relax. Dad. It's a stupid notification. The light from the screen bounced off the cranberry bowl. It looked like blood trapped in glass. I watched that reflection instead of his face. Aunt Jen's chair scraped the floor. Not dramatic, just the sound of someone moving when they've had enough. Shy Aunt Jen. Frank, what app is that? Dad. None of your business. Uncle Ray leaned forward, elbows near his plate. His eyes weren't on me anymore. They were on my dad's clenched hand. Uncle Ray, you took a DNA test? Dad. I said relax. He tried to slide the phone toward his lap. The motion was clumsy, like his body had forgotten how to act normal. Grandma Dottie's voice came out quiet, but it carried. Grandma Dottie. Put it on the table, Franklin. Dad's jaw worked side to side, the way it did when he was holding back a shout. He didn't like being told what to do in his own house. Dad. Mom, please. Grandma Dottie. Table, now. The candles trembled when someone exhaled too hard. The overhead light made everyone look pale. Then the phone's light flared again, brighter, a second vibration, a longer one. Like the device insisting on being seen. He fumbled it, just for a half second, enough for the screen to face outward. I caught the headline again. New close family match. Under it, smaller text, a name, and a percentage. I didn't read it fast enough to memorize, but I saw the numbers shape, big enough to matter. Not the kind you ignore. Dad snapped the phone back toward his chest. His laugh came out high. Wrong. Dad. See? Spam. It's always spam. Leah's eyes were wide. Her hands hovered over her napkin like she didn't know what to do with them. Leah. I literally saw a close family. Dad. Leah, I swear to God. Aunt Jen. Don't swear at her. My mom hadn't sat down. She stood near the kitchen doorway, one hand on the frame, like she needed the wood to keep her upright. Mom. Frank, please stop. Dad. Stop? Boy, you want me to stop? He turned on her with a sharpness that made my stomach twist. But I stayed still. I stayed anchored to the table edge. Dad. I finally tell the truth, and you want me to stop. Mom. This isn't... Dad. This is exactly what it is. The football announcer in the other room shouted, a touchdown, a roar from a crowd on TV. A fake celebration under our real collapse. I stared at the phone like it was a lighthouse, a glowing screen on a table full of warm food, cold light among candles. Me. What did it say, Dad? I asked again. Same tone, a soft blade. He looked at me with something new. Not contempt, not authority. Panic. Dad. It said nothing. Dad. It's a glitch. Uncle Ray's voice stayed steady. Uncle Ray. Glitches don't say close family match. Dad. You don't know what you're talking about. Grandma Dottie lifted her fork and set it down again. Clink. That tiny ping cracked through the air. My shoulders tightened automatically. Then I forced them down. I let the sound turn into a cue instead of a bruise. I pressed my fingers into the table edge harder. Oak under my nails. Real. Present. Mine. Aunt Jen's phone lit up in her hand. She wasn't recording. She was searching. Aunt Jen. Frank, is that 23andMe? Dad. Put your phone away. She ignored him. Her thumb moved fast. Aunt Jen. It looks like it. Dad's face tightened. He hated being identified. Like his secrets were a species someone could name. Mom's voice finally lifted, thin and cracked. But Mom. Why would you do that? Dad. I didn't do anything. He said it too quickly. A lie with no breathing room. Leah blinked hard. Leah. Wait. If you did a test, why? Dad. Because I can. The phone light flashed again. A third ping. Like the app was knocking on a locked door. He slapped the screen. Too hard. The device made a dull sound against the wood. And that's when I saw his hand shake. Not the shake of anger. The shake of a man afraid of paperwork. Because DNA apps weren't feelings. They were records. They were numbers. They were the kind of thing you couldn't bully into changing. I thought of the Franklin County clerk receipt in my purse. Case number 2024-17823. A tiny official stamp that had steadied me. My dad lived by his own kind of records. Mortgage statements, property taxes, the deed he loved to wave around. Yet he always said, Dad, if it's not on paper, it didn't happen. I watched him now, trying to erase what was on a screen. Same obsession. Different enemy. Uncle Ray reached for the gravy like he needed something normal to do. The ladle clinked against the boat. Then he stopped, realizing the sound. Everyone's eyes flicked to the phone again. Then to my dad. Then to my mom. My mom looked like she'd been pushed underwater. Her lips parted, but no words came out. I didn't rush to comfort her. Not yet. Because comfort without truth had kept us trapped. Me. Did you take that test before today? Dad's head snapped up. Dad. Why would I tell you? Me. Because you chose Thanksgiving. Me. Because you chose an audience. He opened his mouth, closed it. His eyes darted to the far end of the table, where my aunt's boyfriend, Mark, sat quietly. Mark was newish, a year in. Nice guy, works in insurance, always polite, always careful. He was the kind of witness my dad hated, neutral, not raised in the family fog. Mark's face was blank in that specific way, like he was watching a car wreck and filing it away, a future statement. Dad, this is private. Aunt Jen, you made it public. Dad glared at her. Then he did something I'd seen him do in meetings, in stores, at the bank. He tried to take control by changing the topic. Dad, Marin's been disrespectful for years. Dad, I've put up with it. I didn't bite. I didn't defend myself. I let him talk into empty space, because the phone was still there. Because the glow was still leaking out. Because everyone was already doing the math. Leah's voice came small. Say, Leah, what does close family even mean? Aunt Jen answered without looking up from her search. Aunt Jen, it means... Not a third cousin, Aunt Jen. It means close. My dad's hand tightened again. He tried to hide the phone under the folded napkin. The napkin slipped. The phone slid an inch across the table. That inch felt like a mile. Enough for Uncle Ray to see the top edge. Enough for Grandma Dottie to see the icon again. Grandma Dottie. Franklin, I raised you better. Dad. This has nothing to do with you. Her eyes narrowed. Grandma Dottie. Everything you do has something to do with me. That line landed. Not loud. Just final. I watched my dad's throat bob. He swallowed like he was trying to get rid of a taste. Smoke, maybe. Or sage turned bitter. Mom finally spoke, and her words came out like they'd been locked away. Hey, Mom. You promised. Dad. Don't start. She flinched, but she didn't back off. Mom. You promised we would never do this to her. Dad. We? Mom. Yes, we. My skin prickled. Not with fear, with clarity. So he already knew something, or thought he did. Twist in my chest, slow and heavy, like the smell of gravy turning sour. I kept my voice calm. Me. You've been calling me not yours since I was little. Me. So why are you surprised? He looked at me like I'd stepped out of the role he wrote. Dad. I'm not surprised. Me. Then unlock the phone. Aunt Jen's eyes shot to me. Uncle Ray's mouth tightened. Mom's breath stalled. Dad. No. Me. Why? He shook his head once, quick. Dad. Because it's not your business. Me. You made my existence your business. That was one of the lines I knew I'd remember later. And not because it was clever. Because it was true. My dad leaned closer, lowering his voice like a threat. Dad. If you keep pushing, you're going to regret it. I didn't flinch. I let the table edge bite into my fingertips. I let the phone light keep shining. Me. Regret what? Me. Knowing who I am? The furnace kicked again. Hot air rushed through the vent with a dry hiss. The sound filled the spaces where no one wanted to speak. Leah's phone buzzed in her lap. She startled, then checked it. Leah. Oh my God. Her voice was a whisper, but it punched through the room. Everyone looked at her. Then at my dad. Dad. What did you do? Leah. I didn't do anything. She held her phone up like she was afraid to touch it. The screen glowed, bright and cold. That Leah. I have that app too. Leah. From when we did it at school for biology. Aunt Jen snapped her head toward Leah. Aunt Jen. You did a DNA test? Leah. It wasn't a full one, it was… I don't know, we did kits. My dad's face drained. He knew the system now. He knew how networks worked. Dad. Give me that. Leah. No. Leah's no came out shaky, but it was still a no, a crack in his power. Uncle Ray stood halfway, palm up. Uncle Ray. Nobody's grabbing phones. Uncle Ray. Sit down, Frank. Dad. Don't tell me to sit down in my house. Grandma Dottie's fork tapped her plate again. Clink, clink. My shoulders tightened. Then I forced them down again. Power cue, not panic. I turned toward Leah. Me. What does your screen say? Leah's eyes filled, not with tears falling yet, with fear of what she was about to confirm. Leah. It says, new match. Leah. Close family. Dad's laugh died on his lips. He stared at Leah's phone like it was a warrant. Aunt Jen's voice went flat. Aunt Jen. So it's not spam. The phone light reflected off the gravy boat. It made the silver look like a blade. Cold truth on a warm table. My mom made a sound, small, like someone trying not to break. Mom. Frank? My dad stared at his own phone again, then at mine, still in my purse, then back at Leah's. He wasn't looking at people. He was looking for a way out. And I realized something in that glow. This wasn't about me being a lie. This was about him being exposed. So I asked the only question that mattered. Me. Dad, what name popped up? He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Then his phone buzzed again. A message preview flashed. 3 words, clear as ice. How can we talk? His hand shook so hard the phone slid. 1 inch, 2. And for a split second the screen faced the whole table. A profile photo silhouette, a name, and a relationship estimate that made my stomach drop. Because it wasn't a distant cousin, it was close enough to blow the whole story open. Dad lunged to flip the phone over, but the truth had already hit everyone's eyes. And I didn't move. I just kept my fingers on the table edge, and waited for him to explain what his own light had revealed. Dad's palm stayed pressed to the phone like he could smother it. The wood under his hand was glossy from years of polishing. I watched his thumb twitch against the glass. Uncle Ray. Frank. Aunt Jen. What name was that? Leah. I didn't mean to. Dad. Nobody saw anything. Dad. Sit down and eat. He tried to make it a command, a loud, simple sentence, like volume could rewrite an app. My fork was still in my hand, metal cool on my fingers. I set it down with care, like a fragile thing. My palms were damp. I wiped them on my jeans, feeling the denim drag. Then I kept my hand on the oak anyway. The touch of the table steadied me. Oak grain under my fingertips. A ridge I'd traced 1,000 times as a kid. Mom reached for my shoulder. Her hand hovered. Then she stopped, like touching me would confirm something. Mom. Marin. Me. I'm okay. I wasn't okay. But I was upright. And I wasn't giving him a collapse to point at. Grandma Dottie leaned forward. She placed her hand on the table, palm down. Deliberate. Grandma Dottie. Put the phone on the table. Dad. No! The words snapped out of him, short and ugly, like a door slammed. Aunt Jen stood up fully. Her bracelet clicked as she crossed her arms. Aunt Jen. You don't get to humiliate her and then hide your own screen. Dad. I'm not hiding anything. His voice rose, not defensive, panicked. Uncle Ray. Then show it. Dad. It's a scam. He said scam like it was a spell, like one word could erase that percentage I'd seen. Leah tucked her phone close to her chest like a shield. Leah. Mine said the same thing. Dad. You probably clicked a link. Grandma Dottie's eyes narrowed. Grandma Dottie. Stop talking to her like she's stupid. Dad flinched, just a little. Then he aimed at me again, because I was safer to attack. That's Dad. She set this up. Dad. She's always trying to make me look bad. The table edge dug into my fingertips. I welcomed the bite. Pain was honest. Me. I don't have your phone. Me. And I don't control what it says. Mom's serving spoon slipped and tapped the gravy boat. Clink. My spine tightened on instinct. Then I breathed out, slow. I turned the sound into a cue. Not a trigger. Uncle Ray. Frank, answer the question. Dad, what question? Aunt Jen. Why did you do a DNA test? Dad. I didn't. He lied too fast again. No space to be real. Grandma Dottie. Then why is that app on your phone, son? Dad. Because. His jaw worked. His fingers flexed on the phone, white at the knuckles. The glass reflected candlelight in a thin orange line. Touch was my first language in that house. Cold tile under bare feet. That dish soap stinging cracked knuckles. His grip on my arm when he'd guide me to my room. And now my hands stayed calm. Fingertips on oak. A woman's hands, not a kid's. Aunt Jen. Did you take it because you thought Marin wasn't yours? Dad. I didn't say that. Uncle Ray. You literally just said she's a lie. Dad. That's not what I meant. He turned on Mom, sharp and accusing. Dad. She knows what I meant. Mom. Frank. My mom's voice was paper thin. Her rings clicked softly against the chair as she held on. A new thought rose, steady. He's not scared of me. He's scared of what someone else might claim. Dad's fingers kept rubbing the edge of the phone case, back and forth, like he could sand the moment down. Uncle Ray. When did you take it? Dad. I didn't. Aunt Jen. Frank. Those kits don't appear by magic. Leah. Did you send it in? Dad's eyes flicked to Leah's screen. He hated that hers confirmed his. My nails pressed into the oak until I felt the grain bite back. Tiny crescents in my own skin. A reminder. I'm here. I'm real. Mom's hand finally touched my shoulder. Barely. Fingertips, light as a question. Her touch didn't comfort me. It told me she'd been scared for a long time. Dad shoved his plate away. Ceramic dragged against wood with a harsh scrape. He started to rise, like he could lecture us back into place. Uncle Ray stepped closer, blocking him. Not aggressive, just a wall made of calm. Aunt Jen. Read the name out loud. Dad. No. Me. Then it would be easy to show. My purse sat by my chair, zipper tab cool under my palm. I didn't open it, I just touched it, grounding. Now's Dad's voice turned sly. Dad. Fine. We'll get official. Dad, you want to play DNA games? I'll cut you off. There it was. Financial lockout, his favorite lever. Me. Cut what off? Aunt Jen. She's 27, Frank. Aunt Jen. What exactly are you threatening? His jaw clenched. He looked around, searching for someone to back him. For once, nobody rushed in to hand him power. Leah twisted her napkin until the fabric went tight, then loose. Touch as panic. Mom. Please, not at the table. The word table landed heavy, because the table was where everything happened, where he corrected me, punished me, performed me. Grandma Dottie tapped her fork once. Clink. My shoulders tensed, then settled. Power cue. Not panic. Dad's phone buzzed again. He slapped the screen, dull tack against the table like a stamp. E County Clerk. Case number 2024-17823. My receipt in my purse, folded and refolded. My dad trusted stamped paper. He didn't trust people. Aunt Jen. Let me see it. Dad. No. Uncle Ray stood up, palms open. Uncle Ray. Frank, sit down. Dad. Don't tell me what to do. Uncle Ray. I'm telling you to stop. Uncle Ray. At your table, in front of your mother. That last line landed with weight. Grandma Dottie's hand stayed flat on the oak. Grandma Dottie. You're embarrassing yourself. Dad. I'm protecting myself. There it was. Not me. Him. Me. Protecting yourself from what? Dad. From lies. He pointed at me, finger shaking. Me. You called me a lie. Me. But your phone is the one buzzing. Aunt Jen read fast on her own phone, learning in real time. Aunt Jen. Close family match means half-sibling. Aunt Jen. Or aunt. Or first cousin. Aunt Jen. It's close. Dad. Stop Googling. Aunt Jen. Stop lying. Leah's lower lip trembled. She looked at me like she wanted permission to exist in the room. I gave her a tiny nod. Leah. Uncle Frank. Why is my app saying it too? Dad. Because it's a glitch. Uncle Ray. 3 glitches in a row? Dad. Yes. Mom stepped closer, trembling. Mom. Give me the phone. Dad jerked away, fast. His sleeve brushed the candle and the flame flickered. Dad. No. Mom. Frank? Dad. You don't get to take my stuff. Stuff. Like it was a remote, not a device holding a life. That tone hit a memory in my hands. Cold plastic card, a grocery checkout. Declined. His smile behind me. Financial control. A quiet leash. So when he clutched that phone now, it clicked. He wasn't just hiding a match, he was guarding control. Dad glanced at me with a cruel spark. Dad. She's been living off my name for years. Dad. Maybe it's time that stopped. The threat was familiar. Cancel, cut, punish. I thought of my own rent payments, my own lease, my own bank app. Things he couldn't freeze anymore. Me. I don't live off your name. Me. I live off my paycheck. His smile tightened. He hated that sentence. Aunt Jen stepped into his path, blocking him. Aunt Jen. No. Dad. Move. Uncle Ray's hand touched Dad's shoulder, firm. A simple touch that said, stop. Dad yanked away like the contact burned. Dad. Don't put your hands on me. Uncle Ray. Then don't put your words on her. Leah glanced down at her screen, then up, eyes wide. Leah. It's giving me the relationship estimate. Dad's face went gray. He wasn't worried about my feelings. He was worried about the math. Grandma Dottie reached for his wrist. Her fingers were small, but her grip was sure. Grandma Dottie. Give it to me. Dad jerked back so fast the chair legs screeched. The sound scraped across my nerves. I held the table edge harder, grounding. Dad. No! The shout came out raw. A man losing his mask. Mom stepped between them, shaking. Mom. Stop it! Dad's eyes darted to the doorway, searching for an exit. Then he did what he always did when cornered. He attacked me again, hoping the room would follow. Dad. She's doing this. Dad. She probably hacked something. Dad. She's always been sneaky. Aunt Jen's laugh was short, sharp. Aunt Jen. Frank, she doesn't even know your password. Uncle Ray. Frank. Uncle Ray. Did you take the test secretly? Dad's lips parted. He looked at Mom again, a accusation flashing. Mom swallowed and rubbed her sweater sleeve over and over. Touches coping, touches confession. Mom. Frank, please! His phone buzzed again in his fist. He stared at the screen, his thumb hovered near the power button. For a second, it looked like he might crush it. Then he froze. Even if he broke the phone, the match still existed. Waiting. I leaned forward slightly, not threatening, just present. Me. You can keep calling me names. Me. But that app doesn't care. The room shifted in tiny movements. Aunt Jen closer to Mom. Uncle Ray closer to Dad. Leah edging toward me. Dad's voice lowered. Dad. This isn't the time. Me. You chose the time. Dad. It's Thanksgiving. Me. Then be thankful for honesty. He stared at me and I saw it. He already knew something, or he believed he did. And his cruelty wasn't random. It was panic wearing a suit. Aunt Jen. Frank, show the screen. Dad. No. Uncle Ray. Why? Dad. Because I'm not letting you people. You people. He meant witnesses. He meant anyone who could remember. Grandma Dottie cut in, calm as stone. Grandma Dottie. We already saw enough. Dad blinked. He looked around the table. He realized the audience had changed. And then my cousin Tessa, quiet all night, finally spoke. She worked at a bank, the kind of person who read fine print for a living. She lifted her chin and looked straight at my dad. Tessa. I saw it. Tessa. It said close match. Tessa. I saw it. Tessa. It said close match. That did it. The table stopped being a table and turned into a crowd. Too many eyes, too many breaths, too much heat trapped in one room. People shifted in their chairs like they were looking for exits. Napkins crumpled. Water glasses got lifted, then set down untouched. Even the candles felt crowded, flames fighting for air. My dad held the phone tighter, like it was his last organ. His shoulders went high and stiff. His smile disappeared completely. Dad. Tessa, you're mistaken. Tessa. I read what I read. Uncle Ray's voice stayed low. Uncle Ray. Frank, we're past pretending. Aunt Jen. Just show it. My mom swayed slightly, one hand on the kitchen doorway. She looked like she wanted to vanish into the pantry. Her eyes didn't go to the phone. They went to me. I pushed my chair back slowly. The legs scraped the wood floor, a long sound that pulled every head toward me. Space opened, then tightened again. Me. I need air. It was half true. And I didn't need air as much as I needed distance from his performance. In a crowd, he always became a king. I walked toward the kitchen without looking at him. I kept one hand brushing the wall as I passed, fingertips grazing paint. Touch was my map out of a storm. Behind me, the dining room kept moving. Questions rose in low bursts. Names, percentages, the words DNA and match, like sparks over dry paper. The kitchen was bright and loud in a different way. The dishwasher hummed, the vent fan rattled, dishes clinked as someone tried to be helpful on autopilot. The smell hit harder back here. Sage, gravy, turkey fat, and something faintly burnt from the stuffing pan, like comfort with a scorched edge. I stood at the sink and gripped the counter, cold laminate under my palms. The faucet dripped once, twice, steady like a metronome. And then my mom followed me in and shut the swinging door halfway, not all the way, like she still needed the option to run back and smile. Mom. Marin, honey. Her voice broke on my name. I stared at the stainless steel sink because if I looked at her, I might fold, and folding would hand him the story again. Me. Don't call me honey right now. Mom. Okay. That was new. My mom rarely agreed with me that fast. It meant she was scared. She stepped closer, hands clasped tight. Her sweater sleeve slid down her wrist and she kept tugging it up, again and again. Space between us shrank and stretched with every breath. Mom. He shouldn't have said that. Me. He's been saying versions of it for years. Her eyes flashed with guilt, then with a kind of terror I'd never seen on her face. Like she'd been holding a door shut for decades and the hinges were finally giving. Mom. I tried to stop him. Me. You tried to soften him. Me. That's not the same. That line tasted metallic in my mouth. But it was clean. Clean lines were the only thing cutting through the fog. Mom's fingers went to the counter, then pulled back. She didn't touch me. She looked like touching me would make the secret real. Mom. The phone. Me. Yeah. Mom. I don't know why he did it. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding, because part of me had always believed the problem was me. And now the problem was clearly a man with a buzzing screen. Me. Did you know he took a test? Mom. No. The no was too quick, too smooth. A practiced answer. I turned then, finally. I saw the flower on her cheek still, and I saw her mascara clumped at the corners, the beginning of tears she refused to release. Me. Mom. Mom. Marin, please. The kitchen felt smaller as she said it. Not because the walls moved, because the truth made everything take up more space. I reached into my purse and pulled out my wallet. I didn't take anything from it. I just held it, thumb pressing the edge of my driver's license through the plastic. It grounded me in something official. A state-issued photo, a date, a barcode, no opinions, no stories. Me. I went to the county clerk. Mom, why would you do that? Her tone wasn't angry. It was frightened, like I'd walked too close to a cliff. Me. Because I'm tired of living on his mood. Me. And I'm tired of you flinching like it's normal. My mom's lips parted. The vent fan rattled louder, as like it was trying to fill the silence with noise. The dishwasher hummed on, patient and indifferent. Mom. What did you get? Me. A certified copy request. Me. A receipt. A case number. Her eyes darted to the doorway again. She heard the dining room the way a deer hears brush moving, crowd noise, voices rising, someone laughing too loudly to cover fear. Mom. Don't bring papers into this. Me. Papers are the only thing he respects. That line sat heavy and true. Not because I wanted to weaponize paperwork, because he'd trained us all to speak only in what he couldn't deny. Mom's hands trembled. She whispered like the kitchen was listening. Mom. You don't understand. Me. Then explain it. She swallowed hard. Her throat worked like she was trying to push a stone down. Then the dining room door swung wider, but my dad filled the doorway like a storm front. He didn't knock. He didn't hesitate. Dad. There you are. He looked straight at me, not my mom. His eyes were glassy with anger and something else underneath. Fear, dressed up as rage. Dad. You think you can walk out and let them interrogate me? Me. You chose to speak. Dad. I chose to tell the truth. He said truth like it was his property, like he could sign it and file it and lock it in a drawer. My stomach tightened, but my voice stayed calm. Me. You chose to call me a lie. Dad. Because you are. Mom stepped between us, hands up. Mom. Frank, stop. Dad. Don't tell me to stop in my own house. There it was again. House, table, phone, ownership. His whole identity built on things he could hold. The dining room noise drifted in like a tide. A chair scraped, and a whisper rose, then got swallowed. I could feel the crowd leaning toward the kitchen. Shadows gathered at the doorway. Aunt Jen's profile, Uncle Ray's broad shoulders, Leah's face hovering behind them, pale and brave. My dad noticed too. His voice dropped, trying to keep this contained. Dad. Everybody needs to back off. Aunt Jen from the doorway. Then stop making her a spectacle. He spun toward them, furious, then back to me, like I was the easiest target. Dad. You want facts? We can do facts. He said it like he owned the word, like a stamp made it his. I thought of how he once dragged Mom to a notary public at a shipping store just to feel in control. Dad. I'll get an attorney. Me. Get one. That answer tightened his face. He expected fear. He got calm. Mom's hands shook as she gripped the counter. She whispered, and eyes fixed on the sink. Mom. We were separated. For a while. My dad snapped, too fast. Dad. No, we weren't. Mom. Frank. Yes. The kitchen felt smaller with every word. Sage and gravy turned sharp in my nose. The vent fan rattled like it was nervous. Mom. Someone reached out months ago. Me. To you? Mom. To him. My heartbeat stayed steady, surprisingly, because I'd been living in uncertainty for years. The truth didn't scare me as much as the guessing. Dad's voice rose, sharp. Dad. Don't. Mom flinched, but she didn't retreat. Mom. Frank, you did this. He took another step closer, crowding the space. The kitchen suddenly felt like a hallway, narrow and trapped. I kept my palms flat on the counter, refusing to shrink. Me. Show me the screen. Me. Right now. He lifted the phone slightly like he might comply, and then he turned it toward himself and locked it with his thumb. Dad. No. Dad. No. The words snapped like ice in hot air. The kitchen felt warmer than it had a minute ago. Or maybe my skin just noticed the heat when fear tried to climb in. The furnace kept blasting through the vent by the baseboard. Dry heat, almost metallic. It made my cheeks flush and my throat tight. I stared at the phone in his hand. That little rectangle had more power in it than his voice ever did, and he was squeezing it like a lifeline. Me. Then you're choosing this. Me. You're choosing to keep it secret and keep me small. Dad's nostrils flared. He hated being described accurately. He hated mirrors. Aunt Jen stepped into the kitchen fully. She brought a gust of colder air with her, like the dining room was a different climate, yet her bracelet clicked as she folded her arms. Aunt Jen. Frank, everybody's waiting. Dad. I don't care. Uncle Ray filled the doorway behind her. His presence cooled the room too, not with air, but with steadiness. He wasn't loud. He didn't need to be. Uncle Ray. We're not doing this all night. Uncle Ray. Hand it to your mom. Dad's grip tightened. His thumb hovered near the power button again. He looked like he'd rather crush the screen than let it speak. My mom's voice came out thin. Mom. Frank, please. The word please used to end everything in our house. My mom said it, then my dad decided. But tonight, the word sounded tired. Dad. You're not taking my phone. Mom. It's not about taking. Mom. It's about stopping. He laughed, short and mean. Said Dad. Stopping what? Mom. Stopping you from hurting her. His eyes flicked to me, then away, like he couldn't stand the idea that hurting me might be obvious. I kept my hands on the counter. The laminate was cool under my palms, a little damp near the sink. That temperature contrast helped, hot air on my face, cool surface under my hands. Leah hovered at the doorway, half in, half out. Her phone was still lit in her lap, like a secret flashlight. She looked cold, even in the heat, like her body didn't trust the room. Leah. Uncle Frank, it just updated, Dad. I don't want to hear it. Leah swallowed. Leah. It gave me the name. Aunt Jen's eyes snapped to her. Uncle Ray's shoulders squared. My dad went still in a way that felt dangerous. Dad. Leah, put your phone away. Leah. No. The no came out steadier this time. The witness turning, right in front of him. Leah's fingers shook as she scrolled. The screen glow painted her chin pale blue. She read carefully, like she knew each word could change someone's life. Leah. It says, close family match. Leah. And it says the name is Rowan Carter. Rowan. The name hit me like cold water. Not because I recognized it from my life, because my dad recognized it from his. I saw it in his face before anyone spoke. His skin drained, his jaw unlocked slightly, then clenched again. His eyes flicked to my mom, fast, accusing, terrified. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. The heat in the kitchen couldn't hide the chill that moved through her posture. Mom. No. It was a whisper, barely a sound. But it carried. Aunt Jen frowned. Aunt Jen. Rowan Carter? Aunt Jen. That's not a spam name. Uncle Ray spoke slowly, like he was choosing each word with care. Uncle Ray. Frank. Who is Rowan Carter? My dad tried to reset his face. He attempted the old smile, the one that said, I'm in charge here. It broke in the middle. Dad. Nobody. Dad. It's nothing. Leah glanced down again. Leah. It's not nothing. Leah. It says shared DNA is high. She didn't say the exact number. Maybe she didn't want to. Maybe her app didn't show it the same way. But the fear in my dad's eyes told me it was close enough. My skin prickled, then cooled. A sweat line formed under my collarbone, then turned cold as I breathed. Heat turning into chills. That's what betrayal feels like when you don't let it explode. I looked at my dad's phone again. And me. Your phone got the same name, didn't it? He didn't answer. His silence was louder than any insult. It was the sound of a man calculating damage. Aunt Jen leaned closer, voice low but sharp. Aunt Jen. Frank, did you know that name would show up? Dad. Stop. Uncle Ray's voice stayed steady. Uncle Ray. Frank, answer. My dad turned the phone screen toward himself again. He tapped, trying to bury the notification under swipes. But the screen kept glowing through the cracks in his fingers. Then the phone buzzed. Harder. Not a notification banner this time. A message request. A direct ping. He reacted on instinct and lifted the phone to his face. And that's when I saw it. A profile circle. A silhouette photo, like someone protecting themselves too. A location line that flashed for a second before he jerked the phone away. Cleveland, Ohio. Not far, not distant cousin far. Close enough to drive in 2 hours. Aunt Jen saw it too. Her eyes widened, then narrowed. Aunt Jen. Cleveland? Dad. You didn't see anything. Tessa, still in the dining room doorway, spoke like she was reading a ledger. Tessa. We all saw it. Tessa. And you know we did. That was another witness. Another person stepping out of his fog. My dad's breathing got loud. He hated being observed. He'd built his whole life around controlling what people saw. Mom's hands were shaking now. She rubbed her fingers together like she was trying to warm them. Even in the heat, she looked cold. Mom. Frank, what did you do? He snapped at her. Dad. I didn't do anything. Mom. Then why are you acting like you did? He turned to me, eyes sharp. Man, Dad. This is your fault. Me. No. Me. This is your phone. The sentence landed clean. No yelling, no tears, just a fact he couldn't twist. Leah's phone buzzed again. She flinched, then looked. A new message preview popped up on her lock screen. Hi, I think we might be related. Can we talk? Leah read it out loud without meaning to. Her voice cracked on the last word. The kitchen temperature dropped in my mind, like someone opened a freezer door. Aunt Jen. Who is that from? Leah. Rowan. Leah. It's from Rowan Carter. My dad lunged. One step, fast. Uncle Ray blocked him instantly, palm up, a human gait. Uncle Ray. No. Uncle Ray. You're not taking her phone. Dad. Move. Uncle Ray. Back up. My dad's face twisted. He wasn't used to resistance, not from Ray, not in his own kitchen, not. Grandma Dottie's voice came from the dining room, calm and tired. Grandma Dottie. Franklin, sit down before you do something you can't undo. He froze at her tone. For a moment he actually listened. Then he looked at my mom again, like she was the last lever he had. Dad. Tell them. Dad. Tell them what you did. Mom's shoulders curled in. She hugged her arms like she was cold. The contrast was brutal. Heat blasting, her body still shivering. Mom. I didn't do anything. Dad. Liar. The word liar hung there, ugly and familiar. He'd aimed it at me for years. Now he aimed it at her, because the target had shifted. I watched my mom's eyes fill. Not tears falling yet. Pressure and fear and history. And then my dad's phone buzzed again, insistent. A second message preview flashed across his screen. Frank, it's me. Please don't block me again. My dad's thumb moved too slow this time. He couldn't hide the line before Aunt Jen read it, before Uncle Ray saw the name at the top, Rowan. Aunt Jen's voice went flat. Aunt Jen. Block me again? Aunt Jen. So, you know them. My dad's throat bobbed. He swallowed hard, like the kitchen air had turned to smoke. He tried to laugh, but no sound came out. Me. Dad? I said it softly. Not begging. Not pleading. Me. How long have you been hiding Rowan Carter? He stared at me like he wanted to strike the question out of existence. The furnace blew hot air again, relentless, and still, my skin felt cold. Leah's phone buzzed one more time. She looked down, eyes wide, then up at me. Leah. Marin. Leah. It's showing the relationship estimate now, she swallowed. Her voice dropped to a whisper. It's like she was afraid the number itself might break the room. Leah. It says half-sibling. The word half-sibling didn't sound real. It sounded like a mistake you correct with a backspace. But there was no backspace in this kitchen. My dad's face went tight, then loose, then tight again. He looked like he'd been hit with cold air, like his lungs forgot what temperature they were in. Dad. That's not accurate. Dad. Those apps get stuff wrong. Aunt Jen. Not by that much. Uncle Ray. Frank, stop talking. Uncle Ray. Start explaining. Dad's voice tried to turn casual. Dad. It's complicated. Complicated was his favorite word when he couldn't deny something. It meant, I want control back. It meant, I need time to invent a story. Me. Complicated is for feelings. Me. This is math. That line came out clean, and I felt it settle in my bones. For years, I'd been a mood to him. Tonight, I was a number he couldn't bully. My mom slid a hand along the counter, searching for balance. Her fingers found the edge of a baking tray and gripped it, metal under her nails, cold and grounding. Mom. Frank, did you? Her voice broke. Mom. Did you have another child? Dad snapped his head at her. Dad. Don't say that. Aunt Jen's eyes widened. Tessa's mouth parted slightly, like she was counting years in her head. Leah's shoulders rose, then fell, like she was trying to make herself small. The back door to the kitchen opened a crack. Someone, my cousin Tessa's husband, stepped out to take a call. A ribbon of November air slid in, sharp and cold. It hit my sweaty skin and turned it into goosebumps, heat and cold at once. Exactly how this family always felt. Uncle Ray. Frank, did you take that test because you already knew? Dad. I didn't know anything. He said it too fast. Then he added slower, like he was rebuilding the lie with better bricks. Dad. I had suspicions. Dad. About things. Aunt Jen. About Mom? Dad. About this whole situation. He waved his phone at me like I was a stain. Then he caught himself because Ray's eyes narrowed. Uncle Ray. Don't. Dad. What? Uncle Ray. Don't point at her like she did it. My dad's throat bobbed again. He glanced at the door, then he glanced at the hallway like he was mapping escape routes. Grandma Dottie's voice floated in from the dining room. Grandma Dottie. Franklin, if you run, you'll prove it. That line was a slap without a hand. My dad froze. Leah's phone stayed lit. The message from Rowan sat there, simple and polite. The kind of politeness people use when they're scared too. Hi. I think we might be related. Can we talk? I stared at that sentence until it felt like it had weight. A stranger's words, landing in our kitchen like an official notice. Cold light, warm food, and a family that couldn't pretend anymore. My dad's phone buzzed again in his fist. He looked down, and his face changed like a switch flipped. Whatever was on his screen was worse than a percentage. He whispered so low I almost didn't hear it. Dad. No. Then he lifted his eyes to me, and for the first time in my life, he didn't look disgusted. He looked trapped. And I knew, right then, the match wasn't just proving who I was. It was exposing who he had been hiding. It was exposing who he had been hiding. The kitchen air felt thick, like it had a texture. Not just warm, not just cold. Dense, as if the truth had starch in it. My mom's sweater sleeve kept sliding up and down her wrist. Worn fabric, pilled at the cuffs. She rubbed it between her fingers like a rosary. My dad's phone case was one of those grippy rubber ones, the kind you buy at a gas station because you're scared of dropping control. His thumb kept dragging along the edge, back and forth, back and forth. Aunt Jen's nails tapped her own screen, tiny clicks, fast and sharp, textured sound against glass. Uncle Ray stayed planted in the doorway. Broad shoulders, calm eyes, hands open, a wall made of restraint. Leah's phone glowed in her lap like a flashlight at a sleepover. The message sat there, soft and polite. Yo, like Rowan was knocking on a door and trying not to scare the house. I kept my palms on the counter, cool laminate, faintly gritty where the sponge never gets. That grit grounded me more than comfort ever did. Dad. This is a mistake. Dad. Those kits mix people up. Me. Not like this. Me. Not half-sibling. He flinched at the word again, like it had barbs, like it could snag and unravel everything he'd stitched together. Mom. Frank. Tell her. Dad. Tell her what? Mom. The part you already know. His eyes cut to her. The look was sharp enough to slice. My mom's shoulders curled, but she didn't disappear. The vent fan rattled louder, metal vibrating. The sound felt rough, like sandpaper in the air. My fork-clinked trigger found a new cousin in that noise. Then Grandma Dottie appeared behind Aunt Jen, slow and steady. As she shuffled in with her cardigan and her lavender lotion hands. Her eyes went straight to my dad's fist around his phone. Grandma Dottie. You're squeezing it like it owes you money. Dad. Mom. Not now. Grandma Dottie. Now is exactly when. My dad's jaw worked. He looked at the back door again, the crack of cold air still slipping in. He was measuring escape against shame. Aunt Jen. Rowan said, don't block me again. Aunt Jen. That's not a stranger. Dad. It's someone trying to scam me. Uncle Ray. A scammer who knows your name? Dad. People can find anything online. Tessa stepped in farther, quiet but solid. Her bank brain was in full gear. She looked at my dad like a statement that didn't balance. Tessa. If you're saying it's fraud, file a report. Tessa. Call the company. Tessa. Show us the screen. Dad's lips twitched. He didn't like being offered solutions. Solutions meant proof. I felt a weird calm settle into my chest. Not numbness. A clean surface. A cleared desk. Me. No more stories. Me. Only facts. That was one of my quotable lines. It wasn't dramatic. It was a boundary with teeth. My mom exhaled, shaky. Then she spoke like she was peeling tape off skin. Mom. We were separated. Mom. When you were a baby. Dad snapped his head toward her. Dad. We were on a break. Mom. Don't. Mom. Don't dress it up. Her voice got firmer on the last word, and I saw it. A lifetime of swallowing gravel. Finally spitting out a stone. Mom's fingers went to the baking tray again. Cold metal, smooth and hard. She gripped it until her knuckles went pale. Bet Mom. He moved out for 3 months. Mom. He said he needed space. Mom. He said it was my fault. My dad laughed once, ugly and short. Dad. It was. Grandma Dottie's eyes narrowed. Grandma Dottie. Franklin. He didn't look at her. He kept his eyes on my mom, because that was where the real threat lived. I stared at my mother's sleeve, the soft, worn cotton twisting under her fingers. I stared at the way her wedding ring scraped lightly on the counter. Small textures. Small truths. Me. Why didn't you tell me? Mom's eyes flicked to mine. They were wet, but not begging. More like surrender. Mom. Because every time I tried, he'd punish you. Mom. Not me. Mom. You. That line landed in my stomach like a cold coin. I believed her instantly, because it matched my whole childhood. When I was 10, and I forgot to bring home a permission slip, one piece of paper, thin, cheap, crinkled at the corners. Dad found out at dinner. His fork hit his plate, clink, then he smiled like he was calm. Dad. So you're failing already. Dad. Great. Later, in my room, he made me copy rules onto notebook paper, page after page, pencil grinding into fibers until my hand cramped. Do not forget. Do not embarrass. Do not lie. Texture memory. Graphite dust on my palm. Paper cutting the side of my pinky. And now, in the kitchen, I watched him call me a lie with the same mouth. Mom's voice got smaller. Mom. There was a rumor. Mom. At the hospital. Dad's head jerked. Dad. Stop. Mom. No. Aunt Jen's hand lifted to her chest. Leah leaned forward, breath caught. The whole family, threaded together by old silence, pulled tight. That Mom. They messed up wristbands once. Mom. Not with you. Mom. But it happened on the floor. My skin prickled. A hospital mistake rumor had lived in the shadow of our family for years, like a ghost story. I'd heard it once, whispered by cousins at Christmas lights, then buried. Dad jumped on it fast, like it was a lifeboat. Dad. Exactly. Dad. See? Dad. It's probably that. Uncle Ray's voice stayed steady. Uncle Ray. Frank, you don't get to pick the theory that saves you. Aunt Jen. You accused her for decades. Aunt Jen. Now you want a convenient mix-up? Dad's face went hard. Dad. You don't know what I lived with. Me. What did you live with? He opened his mouth, then closed it. His thumb went back to the edge of the rubber case. Back and forth, Mom whispered almost to herself. Mom. Rowan is not a hospital mix-up. My dad's eyes flashed. Dad. Shut up! The word hit like a slap. Not loud, just absolute. Uncle Ray stepped forward half a step. Uncle Ray. Frank. Dad. Stay out of it. Grandma Dottie's voice came soft, lethal. Grandma Dottie. You're talking to your wife like she's furniture. Grandma Dottie. And you're talking about your daughter like she's dirt. My dad's throat bobbed. He looked at me again, panic simmering under anger. Dad. You want to know who you are? Dad. Fine. Dad. You're a mistake. I didn't react. I didn't give him the pleasure. Me. Say her name. Me. Say Rowan's name out loud. He stared at me, then at Leah, then at Aunt Jen. Too many witnesses now. Too many phones in pockets. My mom made a sound, like she was swallowing a sob. She rubbed her sleeve again. Yeah, the cotton snagging slightly on dry skin. Mom. Frank? You met her. Mom. Years ago. My head turned slowly to my mother. Me. Met who? Mom's eyes squeezed shut for a second. Then she opened them and looked straight at the sink drain. Mom. Rowan. Mom. She showed up at the house. Mom. She said she was your father's daughter. My stomach dropped, but my voice stayed even. Me. How old was I? Mom. 16. 16. The year he suddenly started calling me a problem in public. The year he made me pay him back for gas money. The year he stopped coming to my school events. Texture memory hit again. A paper envelope on my bed with a note in his handwriting. Rent. A made-up bill to remind me I didn't belong. Dad's face twisted. And Dad. She was lying. Mom. She had photos. Mom. She had dates. Mom. She had a name you recognized. Aunt Jen's hand flew to her mouth. Aunt Jen. Frank. Tessa. So you knew. My dad slammed his phone down on the counter. The sound was dull, heavy, rubber case against laminate. A thud that felt like a gavel. Dad. You're all turning on me. Uncle Ray. You turned first. Uncle Ray. You turned on Marin at the table. He reached for the phone again, and for 1 second, his grip loosened. He was breathing hard. His fingers were slick with sweat. The screen lit up on the counter, face up, cold glow on the kitchen tiles. And I saw my opening. Not a scream, not a fight. A fact. My hand moved fast, calm. I didn't grab his phone. I didn't snatch. I simply angled my own phone out of my purse, thumb already on the camera. No flash. No sound. Silent mode, like I'd learned as a kid. Dad noticed a beat too late. Dad. What are you doing? Me. Preserving reality. That was my second quotable line. It tasted clean. I leaned in just enough to frame the screen. The app was open. The profile name sat at the top. Rowan Carter. Under it was the relationship estimate, half-sibling, and below that, the shared DNA percentage with a range. I took 3 screenshots. One with the name, one with the estimate, one with the timestamp visible. Then I opened my notes and typed the exact time down. November 28th, 4:17 p.m. Kitchen counter. Witnesses present. Dad lunged, but Uncle Ray blocked him again. Dad. Give me your phone. Uncle Ray. No. Aunt Jen. Frank, stop. Leah's breath came fast. Leah. Marin. Me. It's okay. My mom stared at my hand like it was a weapon. And then she stared at my dad like he was finally losing his. Dad. You're recording me. Me. I'm recording the evidence. He made a harsh sound in his throat. He reached for the phone on the counter, desperate now. But the screenshots were already mine, time-stamped. Cold light captured. Tessa stepped closer, voice crisp. Tessa. Marin, send them to yourself. Tessa. Email, cloud. Tessa. Right now. I nodded once. I forwarded them to my own email, subject line, Thanksgiving. Because I didn't need a clever title, I needed a trail. Dad's face went red with fury. Dad. You're ruining my life. Me. You built it on a lie. That was my third quotable line, and it surprised even me. It came out quiet, and it still cut. My mom's mouth opened, then closed. She touched the counter edge, fingertips trembling. Then she whispered, barely audible. Mom. There's more. Dad spun on her. Dad. No. Mom. Yes. She lifted her sleeve and wiped her cheek. The fabric left a damp streak of flour and tears. Texture of collapse. Finally visible. Mom. Rowan's mother called me. Mom. She found my number through a notary public record. Mom. From when Frank signed something in 2002. My dad's face went blank, like the past had finally caught him by the collar. Uncle Ray's voice turned low. Uncle Ray. What did you sign, Frank? Dad. Nothing. Grandma Dottie stepped forward, hand on the kitchen table edge now. Her fingers traced the wood grain like she was counting years. Grandma Dottie. Franklin, what did you do? The fork clink sounded again from the dining room. Someone dropped silverware. Ping, then the hush that followed. My shoulders tightened. Then I used it. A power cue. I looked at the doorway, at the family crowd gathering, hungry for explanation. Then I looked back at my dad, whose phone had betrayed him. Me. We're not finishing this in the kitchen. Me. Not where you can corner people. Dad. You don't get to decide. Me. I do. I slipped my phone back into my hand, grip steady, screenshot secured, fax locked. Then my mom said the sentence that changed the temperature of the whole house. Mom. Rowan isn't the only one. My dad's eyes snapped to hers. His voice came out as a whisper, raw. Dad. Stop. And I realized the match wasn't a single crack. It was a seam ripping open. Mom. Rowan isn't the only one. My dad's eyes snapped to hers. His voice came out as a whisper, raw. Dad. Stop. Aunt Jen's breath caught. Uncle Ray's stare didn't move. Leah's phone stayed lit like a tiny stage light. From the dining room, someone's speaker started playing music. Not on purpose, not thoughtfully. Just a playlist that had been running all afternoon. Soft jazz, a brushed snare, a trumpet line that kept trying to sound cheerful. It drifted under our words like a lie with a smile. That music did something to me. It made everything feel filmed, like the worst night of my life had background sound. Grandma Dottie touched my mom's elbow. Her hand was dry, warm, steady, a quiet cue. Come back to the table. Grandma Dottie. We're going to sit. Grandma Dottie. We're going to speak like adults. Grandma Dottie. And nobody is cornering anybody. My dad shook his head, fast. He looked toward the hallway again. Then, at the back door. Escape was his only plan now. Uncle Ray stepped aside. Not to let him out, but to guide the flow. Uncle Ray. Dining room. Uncle Ray. Now. My dad's mouth opened like he wanted to refuse. Then he saw the faces gathering. Not just family, witnesses, Mark, Tessa's husband, my cousin's girlfriend who'd been quiet all night. Even my little cousin Ben hovering at the edge. Confused, scared, watching adults crack. Dad moved first. Not because he agreed, because he understood numbers, and this was becoming a crowd. We filed back in like we were walking into court, plates half-eaten, gravy skin thickening, candles burned lower, wax pooling like slow tears. The jazz kept playing, a saxophone riff looping softly. Every few seconds, a bass note thumped like a heartbeat in the floor. My chair was still pushed back from earlier. I slid into it without looking at him. Denim tight, spine straight. My fingers found the table edge again. Oak grain, familiar ridge, solid proof. I pressed down until my hand stopped shaking. Dad didn't sit right away. He stood at the end of the table, phone in his hand, like a weapon and a shield. The screen glow flashed off and on as he kept locking it, waking it, locking it again. Aunt Jen sat across from him and folded her arms. Her eyes were sharp, but her voice stayed controlled. Aunt Jen. Okay. Aunt Jen. You don't get to call Marin a lie and then act like this is nobody's business. Aunt Jen. Start talking. The trumpet on the speaker hit a bright note. It sounded wrong in this room, like a party hat at a funeral. My dad's laugh tried to happen again. It came out as air. Dad. Everybody's being dramatic. Tessa. No. Tessa. Everybody's being awake. That line landed like a stamp. And I watched my dad's shoulders tighten. Uncle Ray pulled out a chair and sat, slow and deliberate. He didn't touch his plate. He faced my dad like this was an interview he could not dodge. His voice stayed level. Uncle Ray. When did you take the test? Dad. I didn't. Uncle Ray. Frank. Grandma Dottie lifted her fork and set it down. Clink. My skin tightened on instinct. Then I used it. I exhaled slowly. I watched my dad's eyes flick to the sound, and I let him see I wasn't flinching anymore. Not tonight. Dad. A while ago. Aunt Jen. How long is a while? Dad. Months. Months. So he'd been carrying this like a loaded gun in his pocket, and he chose Thanksgiving to pull the trigger at me. My stomach stayed calm, but my mind sharpened. As me. You did it secretly. Me. You did it because you were scared. He shot me a look full of hate. Then he looked away. Hate doesn't answer questions. It just tries to scare people into silence. Leah's voice was small but steady. Leah. My app says half-sibling. Leah. Does yours say the same? Dad's jaw worked. His fingers tightened around his phone. The jazz drummer brushed the snare again. Shh, shh, like whispering. Like the house itself was trying to hush us. Dad. It's not accurate. Tessa. Apps don't guess like that. Tessa. They calculate. My dad's eyes flicked to Tessa, then away. He didn't like people who spoke in facts. Mom sat down beside Grandma Dottie. She looked like the chair was holding her up, not the other way around. Her hands rested on the table, palms down, like she was pinning herself to reality. Mom. Rowan's mother called me. Dad. Stop talking. Mom. No. The sax line on the speaker lifted and fell. My stomach twisted at the contrast. Happy music, ugly truth, a soundtrack that didn't know what room it was in. Mom. She said Frank had promised to handle it. Mom. She said he'd blocked them. Mom. More than once. Aunt Jen's face went tight. Aunt Jen. So you've been doing this? Aunt Jen. Silencing people. Dad slammed his glass down too hard. Liquid sloshed. The sound made my shoulders jump. Then my hands squeezed the table edge. Oak, ridge, ground. My body remembered and then obeyed me. Dad. You don't understand. Uncle Ray. Explain it. Dad's eyes scanned the table like he was looking for a friendly face. He didn't find one. The crowd had flipped. That was the quiet revenge I dreamed of as a kid. Not a scream. A room that finally saw him. Grandma Dottie spoke, voice low and tired. Grandma Dottie. We let you treat her like this. Grandma Dottie. We watched it. Grandma Dottie. And we called it Frank being Frank. The jazz trumpet hit a soft, mournful note. For once, the music matched. My mom's eyes filled. She didn't wipe them. She stared at the cranberry bowl like it was a crystal ball showing her choices. Her voice came out thin, honest. Mom. I thought keeping peace meant keeping her safe. Mom. It didn't. I swallowed hard and kept my voice steady. Because I couldn't afford to fall apart here. Me. I spent my whole life trying to earn a seat at this table. Me. But the table isn't the problem. Me. He is. My dad flinched, like the word he was a pointed finger. He tried to turn it into a joke. Said Dad. Listen to her. Dad. Always the victim. Tessa leaned forward, eyes locked. Tessa. Victims don't usually come with timestamps. I didn't smile, but something in my chest loosened. Aunt Jen looked at me. Aunt Jen. Do you have screenshots? Me. Yes? The word yes felt like a door clicking shut behind me. I wasn't asking permission anymore. Uncle Ray nodded once. Uncle Ray. Good. Uncle Ray. Send them to me too. I did. Right there at the table, under candlelight and jazz. I forwarded the screenshots to Ray, to Jen, and to myself again. Then I opened my notes app and typed what I'd just heard. Rowan's mother called Mom, blocked again. Frank promised to handle it. Tessa watched me type. She gave a small nod like she approved of the method. Dad's eyes went wild. Dad, you're making a file on me? Me. I'm keeping my life. That line felt final in my mouth. Not loud, not cruel, just clean. Dad stood up, chair scraping hard. The scrape cut through the jazz like a record scratch. The speaker kept playing anyway, stubbornly cheerful. It made his anger look even uglier. Dad, this is insane. Dad, you're all turning Thanksgiving into a trial. Aunt Jen didn't blink. Aunt Jen. You turned it into a spectacle. Aunt Jen. We're just stopping the bleeding. My dad pointed toward the living room like a man calling security. Dad. I'm done. Dad. Everybody leave. Grandma Dottie's fork touched her plate again. Clink. My shoulders tightened, then settled. Power cue. Not panic. Hey, Grandma Dottie. Sit. Grandma Dottie. You're not dismissing us like we're employees. The music on the speaker shifted songs. A familiar holiday tune came in. Light piano, soft bells. It made my stomach drop. Because it reminded me of Christmas lights and forced smiles. Of being told to pose for photos while my dad whispered poison. Dad's face hardened at the bells. He looked older suddenly. Less king, more cornered man. His phone glowed again in his fist, cold light against warm skin. Uncle Ray kept his voice level. Uncle Ray. Rowan? Uncle Ray. Is she your daughter? Dad's mouth opened, closed. His throat bobbed. He looked at my mom like she was the only person who could save him. Mom's voice came out small. Mom. Frank? Aunt Jen leaned in, eyes bright with anger. Hey, Aunt Jen. Answer. Dad. It's complicated. Me. No. Me. Complicated is what you say to delay. Me. Say yes or say no. My dad's fingers shook around the phone. The screen flashed as he unlocked it by accident. For a second, the profile page was there again. Rowan Carter, half-sibling estimate, Cleveland, Ohio. A tiny line near the bottom caught my eye. Match since September. September. He'd been living with this for months, and still he chose to humiliate me instead of owning himself. I felt something settle in my spine. My mom's voice cracked. Mom. Frank, I begged you to stop punishing her. Mom, I begged you to be kind. Dad's eyes snapped to hers. Dad. Kind? Dad. After what you did? Aunt Jen's head tilted. Aunt Jen. What she did? Uncle Ray. Frank. Yeah, you're not rewriting this. The bells on the speaker kept chiming, sweet and wrong, like the playlist was mocking us. Dad. You all want to know why? Dad. Fine. He pointed the phone at the table, not showing the screen, just using it like a prop. Dad. Because if this gets out... Aunt Jen. Everything? Aunt Jen. Like what, Frank? Aunt Jen. Your pride? Dad's eyes darted around the table. The holiday song kept tinkling, gentle bells over his panic. It felt like someone had put a lullaby on top of a siren. My skin stayed cold under the house heat. Dad. My job. Dad. My license. Dad. This house. Uncle Ray's brow furrowed. Uncle Ray. What license? Dad. My contractor license. He said it like we were supposed to protect it for him. Like his reputation was a family heirloom. Tessa's voice stayed crisp. Tessa. Then you already know it's real. Tessa. If it's fake, there's nothing to lose. My dad's hands shook harder. He put the phone down for half a second, then grabbed it again. The screen glow strobed across the silverware. Cold light making everything look sharper. Mom. Frank. Did you sign something? Mom. Back then? He stared at her like she'd pulled a thread. The bells kept chiming. Soft, sweet, unforgiving. My chest felt tight, but my voice stayed quiet. Mom. You went to a notary public. Mom. You told me it was for work. Dad. Stop. Mom. You told me not to ask questions. Grandma Dottie's voice cut through, tired and sharp. Grandma Dottie. Franklin, did you make her sign something too? My dad swallowed. His throat moved like sandpaper. He looked at his hands, then at the phone, then away. Says a man searching for a door that wasn't there. Uncle Ray leaned in. Uncle Ray. What did you sign? Dad. Nothing. Tessa tilted her head. Tessa. Then why are you terrified of a name? Tessa. Say it plainly. Tessa. Rowan is your child, or Rowan isn't. The music shifted again. Still the same playlist. Still the same fake cheer. A piano chord landed bright, then faded. It sounded like a smile that couldn't hold. Leah's voice trembled, but she stayed in it. Leah. If Rowan is your kid, then Marin isn't a lie. Leah. She's your daughter too. Leah. So why did you say that? That question made the room tilt. Because it wasn't about DNA anymore. It was about cruelty. And everyone finally faced it. My dad's eyes flashed. Dad. Because I'm tired of being lied to. Me. You weren't lied to. Me. You were exposed. Aunt Jen pointed at the cranberry bowl, then at him. Aunt Jen. You used Marin as a shield. Aunt Jen. You threw her under you so nobody would look at your feet. Grandma Dottie nodded slowly. Grandma Dottie. He always needed a target. Grandma Dottie. He picked the one who wouldn't hit back. I didn't correct her. I just sat there, fingers on oak, listening to bells ring over a life cracking open. His voice cracked. Not from sadness, from fear. Dad. If this gets out, I lose everything. Dad. If this gets out, I lose everything. The holiday bells kept chiming from the speaker. Soft, sweet, almost childish. They sounded like someone trying to decorate a crime scene. My dad's face was shiny with sweat now. The furnace heat didn't help. It made his panic gleam. He looked around the table like we were a jury that could still be bribed. Then he locked eyes with me, like I was the only person he could blame. Dad. So you'll ruin me? Dad. That's what you want. I didn't answer fast. I let the pause breathe. Because my whole life, he used speed to control the story. Mom's hands lay flat on the oak, palms down. Her fingers trembled, and she didn't hide it. The table finally held both of us. Aunt Jen's voice came measured. Aunt Jen. Nobody said that. Uncle Ray. Frank, you're doing it again. Uncle Ray. Deflecting. Tessa didn't look at him, she looked at me. Tessa. Marin, what do you want? Tessa. Not what he says you want. Tessa. What do you want? That question hit different, because I'd spent years living inside reactions. But I wanted something clean. I looked down at my hands, at the crescent marks my nails left in my skin earlier, at the smooth ridge of the table edge under my fingers. Then I looked up at him. Me. I want you to stop owning my identity. Me. I want you to stop performing my pain. My voice stayed calm, but my body felt awake, like every nerve finally belonged to me. The bells kept ringing, but they didn't soften the room anymore. Dad's lips twitched. He tried to laugh it off, weak and thin. Dad. Always the speeches. Me. No. Me. Always the receipts. That line landed like a click, a door closing behind me. Aunt Jen inhaled sharply, like she'd been waiting for that. Uncle Ray gave one small nod. Leah's shoulders dropped, a fraction. My dad stared at my phone on the table beside my plate, screen down, silent, yet he knew something was inside it that didn't care about his tone. Dad. You're making files. Dad. You're sending things. Dad. You're going to destroy me. Tessa's voice was cool. Tessa. If the truth destroys you, that's not her fault. My dad's eyes flashed. Dad. You don't know what you're talking about. Tessa. I know what a record is. Tessa. And I know what a pattern is. The bells shifted to a softer song, almost lullaby sweet. It made my stomach churn. My dad leaned forward, elbows on the table, his forearms flexed like he was trying to dominate the space. Dad. Fine. Dad. You want terms? He said terms like he was negotiating a contract, like he could turn decades into paperwork and win. Me. Yes. Me. Terms. Aunt Jen's head snapped toward me, Mom's eyes widened. Uncle Ray watched carefully, like he understood exactly what I was doing. I wasn't forgiving him. I was removing his leverage. Me. We talk privately. Me. Not here. Me. Not with you performing. Dad. You don't get to. Me. You can say yes or no. My voice didn't rise. I didn't need volume. The bells rang again, gentle and wrong. They made my dad look frantic, like a man sweating under Christmas lights. Dad. Fine. Dad. Later. Me. With boundaries. Dad. Boundaries. He tasted the word like it was insulting. Me. No yelling. Me. No name-calling. Me. No rewriting. Mom swallowed hard. Aunt Jen leaned in closer, eyes bright. Me. And we document what's real. Dad. Document? Me. Yes. Me. Facts, dates, names. That made my dad's face tighten. He didn't fear emotion, he feared paper. I thought of the county clerk receipt tucked in my purse. Gem case number 2024-17823, small ink, big stability. My dad's voice dropped, trying to sound threatening. Dad, you think papers protect you? Me. They protected you. Me. For decades. He stared at me like he wanted to tear my words in half. But you can't tear spoken facts. Uncle Ray spoke firm. Uncle Ray. If you two talk later, it's not just you two. Uncle Ray. Someone else is in the room. Uncle Ray. Or it doesn't happen. Dad's eyes narrowed. Dad. No. Uncle Ray. Then no conversation. The crowd, our family, held still, not silent, just waiting. I didn't look at my mom yet, because I didn't want to make this about her guilt. I needed it about my safety. Me. Witnesses available. Me. Not a pile-on. Me. But not isolated. Dad's jaw clenched. He glanced at Aunt Jen, then Ray, then Grandma Dottie. He saw he was outnumbered. Dad. Fine. He spat it like a concession. Aunt Jen exhaled, relieved but angry. Leah blinked hard, keeping tears in. The bells kept chiming like nothing mattered. Then I made the next move. The one that wasn't about him. I picked up my phone and turned it toward myself. The screen glow reflected in the cranberry bowl again, cold light on red. My thumb hovered over Leah's text thread where Rowan's message had come through. I wasn't opening it in front of everyone. I wasn't turning Rowan into a spectacle too. Me. I'm going to respond privately. Dad. No, you're not. Me. Yes. He lunged halfway out of his chair. Uncle Ray's hand lifted, palm out. A quiet stop sign. Dad froze. Me. You don't control this part. Me. You never did. That was one of my reflective lines. Because the truth was, he'd only controlled my silence. Not my reality. I typed a short message. Careful, calm, not emotional. Hi, Rowan. I'm Marin. I saw the match too. I'm processing. Can we talk by phone first? I didn't send it yet. I saved it as a draft, because I wasn't letting my dad's chaos touch Rowan. Then I looked at the table again. At my mom's shaking hands. At Aunt Jen's tight jaw. At Leah's pale face. At Grandma Dottie, who looked older than she had an hour ago, like she'd been carrying this family's denial in her bones. My dad's phone buzzed again in his hand. He stared at it like it was a judge calling his name. Dad, you have no idea what you're doing. Me. I do. Me. I'm ending your power over me. That was my second reflective line. And it was the truth. Clean and quiet. Aunt Jen's voice softened a fraction. That Aunt Jen. Marin, do you want to leave? My mom's head snapped up at that. Her eyes were wet. Mom. Don't go. It was a whisper, but it was heavy. My dad seized it. Dad. Yeah, don't go. Dad. Stay and be a family for once. Family. He used the word like a chain. I looked at my mom, and I saw something that made me choose differently. My mom wasn't asking me to stay because she loved Thanksgiving. She was asking me to stay because she feared what he'd do when we were alone. That fear used to keep me in my chair. Tonight, it pushed me to stand. Me. I'm leaving. Me. And I'm not sneaking out. Aunt Jen's mouth parted. Uncle Ray nodded slowly, approval in his eyes. Leah let out a shaky breath. My dad's face turned red fast. Dad. No. Me. Yes. The bells on the speaker rang again, bright and sweet. I stood up anyway. At the chair legs scraped the floor. A harsh sound, loud in a room that wanted to keep me seated. My hands brushed the table edge one last time. Oak Ridge. Familiar groove. A goodbye to the place where I learned to shrink. I picked up my purse. My Walmart receipt crinkled inside, hidden but real. My county clerk receipt sat folded like armor. Dad. If you walk out, don't come back. Me. That's the point. That line landed like a door slam. Not angry. Final. My mom stood too, trembling. Mom. Marin. Me. I'll call you tomorrow. Me. Alone. My dad took a step toward me, his phone still in his hand, glowing, cold light on his knuckles. Uncle Ray stepped between us. Uncle Ray. Let her go. Dad's eyes flashed with something wild. Then he shifted his aim to the only weapon he had left. Dad, if this gets out. He swallowed. Dad. If this gets out, I swear. I didn't let him finish the threat. I leaned in slightly, voice low enough that only the closest people heard. Me. Don't threaten me. Me. You already did worse. Then I turned and walked toward the front door. Not fast, not shaking, just moving like someone who finally owned her legs. Behind me, I heard the fork clink again. A soft ping from the dining room. My shoulders tightened. Then I let it become a cue, because this time, the silence after it didn't belong to him. It belonged to everyone watching me leave like a survivor, not a problem. It belonged to everyone watching me leave like a survivor, not a problem. Outside, the cold hit my face like a clean slap. November air, sharp and honest. It cut through the turkey smell that had clung to my hair. The porch light buzzed above me, untired and yellow. My breath came out in small clouds. My hands shook for the first time all night. Not because I regretted leaving, because I was finally out of the heat, and my body could stop pretending. I got into my car and sat there without turning the key. The steering wheel felt rough under my palms. Textured rubber, tiny ridges, real. I opened my purse and pulled out the Walmart receipt. It was crumpled, stupid, ordinary. Paper towels, sparkling cider, harvest candles. I held it like proof of time, proof I was there, proof I didn't imagine anything. Then I pulled out the county clerk receipt. County clerk, case number 2024-17823. My eyes traced the number again until my breathing slowed. I did what I always do when I'm trying to stay sane. I organized, screenshots, saved, email, sent, notes, time-stamped. As I forwarded everything to a fresh folder in my cloud drive. Title, Thanksgiving 2024. No drama, just data. Then I opened the draft message to Rowan. The phone screen lit up my lap in cold light, glowing in the dark car like a tiny courtroom lamp. Truth arriving again, steady and indifferent. I hit send. Hi, Rowan. I'm Marin. I saw the match too. I'm processing. Can we talk by phone first? My thumb hovered over the screen after, waiting for the world to reply. For 10 minutes, nothing happened. The heater in my car clicked on with a small whine. Warm air crept toward my knees. Then my phone buzzed. A new message from Rowan. Hi, Marin. Thank you for answering. I've been scared to reach out. Her words were careful, not dramatic, like she'd learned the same survival language I had. As I stared at the screen until my eyes blurred, then I typed back with the same caution. I'm scared too. Are you somewhere safe to talk? 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Yes, I'm in my car too. I didn't want to be in my apartment when I did this. That line made my chest tighten. Because it felt familiar. Because it was me. We agreed on a call the next morning. Not tonight. Not under the heat of a holiday and an audience. A public place later. Daytime. A table where nobody owned the chair. I drove home and didn't turn on the radio. Silence was cleaner. At my apartment, the hallway smelled like someone's laundry and cheap pine cleaner. I unlocked my door and stepped into my small living room. It was quiet in a way my parents' house never was. No furnace roar, no football voice, and no knives disguised as jokes. I sat on my couch and stared at the wall for a long time. Then I made tea and watched the kettle steam. The smell wasn't sage, it was chamomile, soft and plain, a different kind of tradition. At 7:03 a.m. the next morning, I called Rowan. Her voice was younger than I expected. Not teenager young, but not older sister in some movie either. Rowan. Hi. Me. Hi. Rowan. I'm sorry. Me. Don't apologize for existing. That sentence broke something open in my chest. Because nobody had ever said it to me. We spoke in short bursts at first, like two people stepping onto thin ice. Names, ages, places, little anchor details. Rowan was 29, born in Cleveland. Her mom's name was Dana. Dana had dated my dad around the time my parents were separated. Rowan didn't need to dramatize it. She had timelines. Yeah, Rowan. He knew about me. Rowan. He's known for years. I felt cold spread down my arms. Not shock, recognition. Me. Did you ever meet him? Rowan. Once. Rowan. When I was 17. 17, 1 year older than I'd been when my mom said Rowan showed up at our house. Rowan. He told me I was mistaken. Rowan. He said my mom was lying. Rowan. Then he offered my mom money to keep things quiet. Money, of course, the lever he loved. Rowan. My mom didn't take it. Rowan. But he made it clear what would happen if we talked. My hand gripped the edge of my coffee table. The corner pressed into my palm, grounding. Different table, same need. Rowan. He blocked me. Rowan. I tried again when I was 23. Rowan. Blocked again. So the message I'd seen, don't block me again, wasn't desperation. It was history. As me. Why now? Rowan. Because he took a DNA test. Rowan. And it matched me. Rowan. And I realized, he can't hide from math. I let out a breath that felt like my body releasing years. Not relief, a clean sadness. Rowan. I'm not calling to take anything from you. Rowan. I'm not calling to fight. Rowan. I wanted to know if you're real. My eyes burned. My voice stayed steady. Me. I'm real. Me. And you are too. We sat in silence for a second. Not the kind my dad used like a weapon. The kind that lets truth settle. Then Rowan said the part that made the bigger picture snap into place. Rowan. There's another match. Rowan. Not you. Rowan. Not me. My chest tightened. Me. What do you mean? Rowan's voice dropped. Rowan. A boy. Rowan. He's 19. Rowan. Same last name as my mom. 19. And I pictured my dad's face in the kitchen when my mom said, Rowan isn't the only one. I felt the temperature of that moment again. Heat blasting, my skin cold. Me. So, he has more than one. Rowan. Yeah. And suddenly, my dad's cruelty made perfect sense. It wasn't doubt. It was projection. He wasn't scared I wasn't his. He was scared he was theirs. Rowan told me the boy's name, Eli, and she told me his message was simple too. I think he might be my father. I don't know what to do. My stomach turned, slow, because the story wasn't just about me proving I belonged. It was about him proving he'd been lying for decades. After the call, I sat at my kitchen counter with my laptop open. I didn't search gossip. I searched public records. My dad had always treated the world like paperwork, so I met him there. Franklin County's online records showed a few things in plain language: contractor license filings, business registrations. Nothing illegal popped out at first. But I wasn't hunting for a crime. I was hunting for patterns. And then I remembered what Mom said. Notary Public Record, 2002. I called my mom from my apartment. Alone, like I promised. Mom answered on the second ring. Her voice sounded small. Mom. Marin? Me. I'm okay. Mom. Are you sure? Me. I'm clear. That was one of my reflective lines. Clear, not calm. Clear meant I could see the truth without drowning in it. Me. Tell me about the notary. Mom. He said it was work. Me. What did you sign? Mom. I didn't sign. Mom. I saw him sign. He hid the paper. Me. Where? Mom. In his filing cabinet. Mom. The locked one. Locked. Of course it was locked. My dad didn't fear people. He feared access. I didn't ask my mom to steal anything. I didn't ask her to search. I asked for safety. Me. Do not go into that cabinet. Me. Do not confront him alone. Mom. Okay. Then my dad texted me. One sentence. No apology. A threat wearing a polite shirt. Stop talking to people about this. I stared at it and felt something settle. He wasn't sorry. He was managing. So I replied once. Don't contact me unless it's in writing with a plan to take accountability. Then I put his number on mute. Not blocked. Muted. Because if he threatened me, I wanted it time-stamped. 2 days later, Aunt Jen called me. She sounded furious and steady. Aunt Jen. He's telling people you're unstable. Aunt Jen. He's saying you fabricated screenshots. Me. Of course he is. She exhaled hard. Said Aunt Jen. Ray and I are coming with Mom to a meeting. Aunt Jen. He doesn't get you alone. We chose a public place, a Starbucks off a busy road, bright lights, cameras, people. I sat at a small table near the window. My fingers found the edge and pressed down. Same grounding habit, different table, new rules. My dad arrived late on purpose. He wore a jacket like he was going to court. His eyes scanned the room first, then landed on me. He tried a smile. Dad. You look tired. Me. Sit. He sat. Uncle Ray and Aunt Jen were 2 tables away, visible. My mom sat in her car outside, watching through the glass. Witnesses available. Not a pile-on. My dad leaned in, voice low. Dad. We can fix this. Me. You don't get to fix it. Me. You get to tell the truth. He blinked, annoyed. Dad. I'm not discussing my private life. Me. You made my life your stage. He swallowed. His fingers tapped the Starbucks table once. Tap. Then stopped. He didn't like being watched. Dad. Rowan is lying. Me. Then why did you block her again? Dad. Because she's harassing me. Me. No more stories. Me. Only facts. I slid my phone across the table. Not unlocked. Just placed it there like a paper on a desk. Me. I have screenshots. Me. I have timestamps. Me. I have witnesses. His face tightened. He glanced around the Starbucks like he hated the cameras. Dad. What do you want? Me. I want you to stop calling me a lie. Me. I want you to stop using me to cover you. His voice turned sharp. Dad. You're not my daughter. Me. Say that again. He froze. He knew what was different now. And he used to say it because nobody challenged him. Now every sentence had an audience, even if it was just security footage and my saved files. Me. If you insist I'm not your daughter, then you won't contact me. Me. You won't use my name. Me. And you won't touch my life again. He stared at me, calculating. His pride fought with his fear. Finally, he spoke in a voice that sounded like paperwork. Dad. I didn't want this to come out. Me. So you made me the cover story. He didn't deny it. That was his confession, without the word. I stood up. Chair legs scraped the Starbucks tile. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. Me. I'm not a cover. Me. I'm a person. Then I walked out. Outside, the air smelled like car exhaust and wet leaves. Not sage, not gravy, not my childhood. My mom got out of her car, trembling. She took a step toward me, then stopped like she was afraid to ask for forgiveness. I didn't give her a clean ending. Real life doesn't do that. I just said, "Me, we'll rebuild." Me. But not around him. Rowan and I met a week later in a public park. Cold sun, bright sky, two women sitting on a bench with coffees. We didn't hug right away. We compared timelines. We shared photos. We looked at each other's faces, searching for what we'd been denied, not to prove something, just to understand. And when I drove past my parents' house on the way home, I didn't turn in. I kept going. Because I finally understood this, with a calm that felt like steel. He called me a lie to erase me. But his own phone delivered the truth, and I finally stopped shrinking at his table. If you liked this story, please like this video. Subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts in the comments.